Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi Antonio.
Mustafa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Mustafa, I just sent you a message that I'm having connection issues in my laptop. Thus, I logged in from my mobile. So I made you co-host too. So can you kindly?
Good afternoon, Anto. How are you?
I can hear you, Jitan.
Oh, perfect. Great.
Hi, this is Abhijit joining. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Abhijit.
Yeah,
Hi.
Abhijit.
Abhijit, you got the deck, right, that I sent?
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Perfect.
Gentlemen, can you hear
Stan here.
Jignesh?
Hey Matt, how are you?
Good,
Hey,
good,
hi,
good.
Matt. How are you?
Good, gentlemen.
Hey everyone, good evening, Nikki here.
Hey, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Timo. Timo.
Ananto, we will need to have access to sharing slides. Is that possible?
Hi, Matt. There's a option in the middle saying share screen.
Yes. Yeah, there is. It says host disabled attendee
Oh,
screen sharing. So
okay.
we'll need the host to allow us
Sorry,
for
sorry,
that.
sorry.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi everyone. Our Chief Corporate and Regulatory Affairs Officer, Mr. Taimur Rahman, has already joined, and some of our technology colleagues have already joined too. I think we can wait for a while for our CTO.
Thank you.
Taimur bhai.
Ankit, can you arrange to switch on the shared screen option?
Yeah, sure.
Hey Pierre, how are you? Pierre has joined.
I think our CTO has already joined.
Alaba.
Abhijit, is that okay? I make you co-host too.
Yeah, I think Jitan would be fine. I think he is going to share the screen.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I'll kick off first, Jitan. So I'll need access.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't get the name of the gentleman speaking, so I'm not sure how to address you. But if you can give Matt Kador access and Jitan as well. Okay, thank you. I have it now. Thank you.
Perfect.
Great, great. So let me know when we should kick off, and we can begin. If Pierre's on the call.
Yeah, both Pierre and Taimur Bhai in the call. We also have our technology colleagues and Sohel Bhai, who is our IT director. So
Right.
Pierre, if you allow, if you give permission, we can start.
Hello.
Pierre, I think you
Hello,
are on
Pierre.
mute mode.
Pierre
We can't hear
join.
you.
Yeah. Hello, gentlemen. I'm hearing echo now.
We can hear you, Pierre.
Yes, Pierre,
Good
we can
evening.
hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was struggling a little bit with my mic configuration. I don't use Zoom on this laptop quite often. So thank you, Matt, for arranging this session and everyone from
My
IBM.
pleasure.
We have here our colleagues from Banglalink from various domains. We're looking forward to this information sharing, knowledge sharing from your side. Without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to you. Thank you for the initiative again.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Pierre. Look, I'll kick off first. And today we have a great session ahead. I hope you guys will enjoy the information and use cases we will touch on. I appreciate you helping us arrange the team to be here tonight with us, Pierre. So that's fantastic. Thank you. Shortly, you'll see the agenda after I'll kick off. But I thought I might give you guys a quick synopsis. Some of this stuff you already know, and in some places you'll be surprised, some do not. Today's main topic points obviously will be around the blockchain. We'll talk about the telco and the relevancy to the telco industry, and in particular to what that means for Banglalink. We will talk about Watson Ops and how that assists the organization and what we're doing with IBM, and obviously touch on some of the ways we are deploying this in the market. And lastly, we'll talk about Watson Assist, and we will end with that, and also discuss some of the great use cases we've done in terms of the deployment in similar industries around the world. But I thought I might kick it off first with these two words, or these four words, I should say. What is digital transformation? Digital transformation means many different things to many different businesses, and the journey that people go through will vary significantly. But fundamentally, transforming a business from the beginning to the end really defines what that transformation journey looks like for that business. It can mean things like the enhancement of the architecture, the technical architecture, the processes within the business, how those business units talk to each other, how you in turn talk to your clients and customers, and importantly, how you access those legacy applications, the legacy data that are currently locked in that environment. And telcos are no different to some of the older banks that are yet to transform their business, to be able to access that information, to more importantly, have that information readily available at their fingertips, to be able to enhance their business in such a way to dynamically change and forever be able to converse willingly with those clients, and also more importantly, keep them. So the things that we do within IBM, we help our businesses, our clients transform, whether it's through smart applications, AI, different forms of analytics and the tools. We be able to help them access the data that's been locked away in those legacy applications. And more importantly, we always strive to get our clients to drive for greater customer satisfaction and experiences. And the use cases you'll see today will really touch on some of those really important points. And at the end of the day, we will talk about the different elements of what that means and what that means for you as a business. Fundamentally, and I like to show this slide because it's so important, because there are so many things on the other side. There are so many things that's part of this digital reinvention within a business. Because we have all these great tools, we have all these great assets, we have all these use cases that are fundamentally changing businesses across the world, and not just for telcos, but certainly telcos, but across all industries, from government to defense, believe it or not, to different levels of government, such as health ministries, so on and so forth, and all the way down to manufacturing and banking and finance. But I like this particular slide because it shows a journey, because at one end of the spectrum on the right, you see that you have this utopia of transformation. But fundamentally, this process of transformation begins with a first step, and that is modernizing the legacy infrastructure to be able to allow businesses to begin towards this transformation, or what I like to say, that utopia at the end of the tunnel. Once that mountainous climb has been had, we certainly can begin to assist. So whether it's through microservices, through Kubernetes, and the ability to go cloud native, whether it's public or private. Now, many customers love to go private, and we have answers to those solutions as well, those difficulties that government may, for example, put in place. But certainly, look, I do hope you get a lot out of today's session. I'm going to pass it across to Jitan to help us lead through the first few presentations. I hope this kind of sets the scene of where we will be heading and taking you on a journey tonight through our transformation discoveries and technologies. Jitan, over to you, mate.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Ananto, as well as the entire Banglalink team for actually having us. So I think you agreed exactly to what Matt said. We've set up quite an exciting agenda. And we actually want you guys to ask us questions about the way we have thought. This is based on what digital transformation, as Matt explained. We've got a couple of technologies, the use cases, but the most important for us is not trying to tell you what a technology can do, but in terms of like what problems we're trying to solve, what motivations we're trying to serve over here. So I think that's how we have set up. So please feel free to stop us at any point of time that you have questions or have thoughts that you want to share with us. I am going to share my screen. We'll put up a deck actually. So this is one share screen, okay. Can you all see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Perfect, super. Okay, so the team that's actually there with you is a combination of teams from different, I guess, different facets. I'm going to have actually the different speakers as they come on to introduce themselves, and then they can kind of go. Of course, you've already heard from Matt, who manages the channel alliances for us. This is, I think, what the agenda we actually have set up. We want to talk about what are we seeing in telecom, how blockchain is basically evolving in telecom and changing, what's in AI Ops by Nikki, what's in Vivek Bansal, and then of course the question and answers. So let me do this. Let me kind of hand it off to Abhijit Athale, who manages the telecom sector for us, to kind of start off with this, and then we'll go from there. So Abhijit, over to you, a quick introduction, and then of course, talk to the slides, please.
Thanks, Jitan, and glad to meet all of you on this platform. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Abhijit. I lead the comms and utility sector for India, Southeast Asia, and Bangladesh definitely is a part of it. And as a part of one of the main part of my responsibility is also to look at where we can help telcos extend their business from the current business models that they have and help them generate new revenue streams. And part of the aim of this discussion today is to explore those. And of course, then in the changing era, how would we help you run the operations in a better manner? And that's where the AI aspect, what Jitan just mentioned, comes in. And it's all underpinned by this digital reinvention framework, which Matt mentioned earlier, which is fundamentally changing the way the telcos are creating new services and also delivering the existing services to their client, right? So that's kind of the theme for the discussion today. So just a quick summary of where we are. I think you know the Bangladesh market better than us. Tremendous growth, a lot of potential, and really you are at the cusp of big data revolution coming your way. And this basically will be driven by three things. One is, of course, the increase in the 4G capacity, coverage, etc. That will then generate the new business initiatives or business opportunities in IoT, virtual reality, connected cars, and what have you. Some of those are long-term, some of those are near-term, and some of the examples that Jitan will mention going forward will be something that we believe you can execute here and now. And most importantly, then the AI aspect, where the customer care itself gives you a different perspective about how you will manage the existing clients that you have, right? So that's really the theme that we have for the discussion today. So if you go to the next slide, Jitan. Now, this is on the left-hand side, you see two charts, right? Two pillars. One is how the business typically telcos have today. I would say data is already almost 50% or even more than almost the same as voice. So we probably depend upon different markets, how that breakup is. But more importantly, going forward, 2020 onwards, that blue bit, which is on the top, which is really the platform plays, which are going to come into the effect. And that creates a new revenue generation possibilities for telcos. And we really see 3 or 4 key themes which are on the right hand side. One is the microservices, SDN, NFV play, which will fundamentally redefine the way in which the networks are built and how the networks are consumed by the end users, right? So that is one theme. That itself is a separate topic. Maybe we'll touch upon it at some point later. But really the next 3 are the important ones which we want to touch upon today. One is the automation using AI, the process automation. The second is the platform plays around blockchain, and then specific use case around customer care, as Jitan mentioned, where we have an AI story that helps you deliver the services in a interactive manner, right? So we will just talk about these 3 pillars on the right hand side. So with that, I'll hand over to Jitan to dwell down into details.
Fantastic. Thanks, Abhijit. Just by quick introduction, my name is Jitan Chandani. I manage the blockchain practice for IBM for India, South Asia. Very glad to actually be here. We have been actually doing blockchain-based work in Bangladesh. We worked very closely with IPDC, and we have a supply chain finance initiative that's currently running in Bangladesh with IPDC. We're also in discussions with a lot of banks, along with Ananto and some of the contacts that he's helped us with to kind of set up some additional consortiums. So very eager to kind of have this discussion with you guys, especially also in terms of the Bangladesh blockchain strategy document that's been released by the government, where they've identified 17 different use cases for blockchain. So I would say the timing of this discussion couldn't be more appropriate. But I want to take a step back, actually. And I want to kind of, in some cases, just engage in conversation as to how I see the role of telcos, and at least what I am seeing in some of the markets, right? And typically, me as myself, I pretty much use my phone for everything today. I use it for my workouts. I use it to track my diets. I use it to shop on Amazon. I use it for fashion, health, whatever else be the case. And the actual discussion that we had with some of the telcos back in India is like, it's fantastic, right? I'm spending all this money on Amazon. I'm spending money on all these different apps. What are you making out of it? And they were like, you know what, the data consumption increases. Fantastic. But again, that's good for the main chunk of the money is actually going to the Netflix of the world and the Amazon of the world. While the way I see it, your phone is being used for pretty much all the interactions. Or typically, I would say a business number for all the transactions that take place, right? Today, me booking my number of steps I actually took, for me, that's a transaction. That data went into some meter altogether, and then it got evaluated by some other scorecards, and somebody could sell me more promotional products because of that. And the idea was that only happened because my phone was able to capture and transmit that data and then to the app and all those things. So the phones have actually become the custodians, or the phone companies have been the custodians of my data. And to be very honest, with all the privacy that we hear about, I do trust my phone provider. And that's not me, that's pretty much anybody who's using a cell phone service right now. So the telcos have become the custodians of our data today. And that's fantastic, actually, because that's wherein lies the opportunity. Now, the idea is that today a telco caters to me as an individual. You cater to the biggest banks in your country, the likes of Sonali Bank, the likes of ABL, the likes of Prime Bank, IPDC, or whoever else for that matter. You cater to pretty much all the big manufacturing clients. How can you be the conduit who can actually produce these platforms? And the question that we keep coming back to clients like telecoms, and like, guys, stop thinking solutions, think platforms. And let's kind of make sure we understand the word platform, because platforms operate a lot of different ways also. Like, for example, Amazon is a platform. I sell red shirts, Matt sells blue shirts. Both of us subscribe to Amazon, create a local login ID, start selling the shirts, and Amazon gives us an entire spectrum of different consumers. That platform does very well, but does only two things. It buys and it sells, actually. That's it, just two things at the end of the day. Apple is a platform. Apple has built iOS, and now I can build a retail app, Matt can build a banking app, Abhijit can create a fashion app altogether. And that's a platform too. And it works absolutely well. And it's a platform that caters to pretty much any industry across the board. So the question that you should be asking, that yes, if I do want to kind of, my voice and my data business, I've really sorted it out. I don't think I can preach you enough, but when I want to think outside, what are these solutions, what are these platforms that I can kind of build, which will enable transactions across industries? And what Abhijit was focusing on, you need to understand what it enables to build a platform and what role technology actually plays. Yeah, we are from IBM, and we can tell you about all the great technologies, but that's not what it takes to build a platform. What you have on the left side of my screen is what you require. You need deep-seated expertise. If tomorrow you want to make a platform for insurance, do we understand the business? Do we have people who kind of understand what role a telecom player actually does play in the insurance business? Can I use IoTs? Can I transmit the data? Is it 4G? Is it 3G? The answer to that question turns out, yes, you have those people because you're catering to those kind of businesses. Do you have access to proprietary data to combine external data sources? Of course you have data because you have so much consumer data coming in, subscriber data from businesses standpoint, as well as can you run some analytics on it and get a lot of intelligence, which you can then offer back to the particular sector? The answer is yes. Process innovation, performance potential. Well, telcos at the forefront, right? You went from 2G to 3G to 4G. We've got different the uses being done on the phone. So telecom always is on a cutting edge of potential, performance potential. The most important, you have channel access network. People trust you. Your brand trusts you in the end of the day. And I think that's what kind of makes it absolutely critical. Lastly, you can expand to scale. Why? Because that's what you've done. You created these networks. The idea that these are the four important criteria, the five important criteria that help you make a platform. Technology is an afterthought. Technology comes later. And that's, I think, where we actually fit in. But I think what we have learned is that the experience that we can have with organizations like yours can walk you through this. What kind of platform can you build using blockchain? What kind of solution or market service can you build using AI? And I think that's how the thinking thought process should be. It's not about us trying to sell a ready-made package. It's about what exactly the platforms of the future will be and what you actually want those platforms to do. And I'll give you one example how IBM has done this, right? Because we took a dual approach to what we are saying. So we pretty much said, you know what, we tried telling the world about what is blockchain. And we just use an example, right? We said blockchain was a ledger that could be connected across different ecosystem participants. The most famous use cases are, of course, the Bitcoin use case, the land registry use cases, the digital identity use cases. The idea was what? That there were a group of participants who wanted to share data. Now they wanted to share data between each other in a very closed loop manner, in a permission way, based on certain conditions. Well, blockchain provided that capability. Blockchain also made it a little more easier that all these participants were on independent infrastructures. Bitcoins technically work on my laptop, which could be a Dell, your laptop that could be an Apple, another laptop that could be anything else. Our blockchain networks that we set up in India for the India telecom industry, they basically are on-prem, work on Azure, work on Amazon Cloud, work on IBM Cloud. It's cross-hybrid. That means it adapts to the actual infrastructure of the organization. It has the versatility. That's what platforms need to do, because that's how Amazon works, right? It works on every phone, every single computer altogether. How can you build that? Well, blockchain enables you to build that as one technology. So what IBM said, we tapped into the hyperledger.org. We dedicated code to it, and we are very much biggest supporters of the open source blockchain technologies like Hyperledger. At the same point of time, we took an enterprise view. We said when we work with organizations or like governments like yourselves who want to have blockchain as a service, we created a platform enterprise solution structure. Very much the best analogy to like Apple iOS. Use my platform, build the application services on it, and it works absolutely fine. Anything from a maintenance standpoint, IBM takes responsibility, much like Apple takes responsibility of iOS, and that's how the enterprises can go and build different services, while we take care of the operating system of blockchain. So we've taken the same technology, and it's available at this point of time from a typically open source mechanism, as well as the idea it's actually made in a platform approach. So I think that's in some cases how the thought process needs to evolve from how do I make my future solutions. And not everything has to be built on large scale. Let's be very clear about this. Absolutely crystal clear. Not everything has to be built with the entire gamut of like 40 banks or 70 people or 70. We've started our blockchain projects with like 5 participants, 3 organizations, 4 organizations, and that's how the evolution comes into play. So no, not the big bang approach. Actually, the small think through approach is critically important. And that's in some cases where the whole cognitive enterprise automation process will come in. It requires human expertise. It requires your proprietary data. It requires your channel access and networks. And then on that, we basically overlay the right technology and to build your platforms. I'm going to go to the next section for blockchain as to what we think it works in telecom. But are there any questions that you have on the first part of the platform discussion?
A quick one on my side, here. Have you participated in the API Hub tender that we have launched recently?
Pierre, I do apologize. I actually missed that question. May I ask you to please repeat?
Yeah. So have you participated in the API Hub tender that we have launched recently?
I would believe the answer would be no for that. I will get back to you. There's the gentleman who actually manages the tenders for us, but I would believe at this point our answer is no, but I'll do confirm back and revert.
No, Pierre. No, Pierre.
No?
IBM didn't. IBM
I was
has
going
not
to say
participated.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. We have not.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Were you invited to it?
Yeah.
We were not.
No. I think yes, we invited, but maybe we can have a discussion because we have a connection with India. Manish, maybe the contact point.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe Manish. I think you didn't participate because of some. I'm not sure the approval process. I don't know what is the reason.
Syed, let's exchange details over the.
Basically, let me add here. Basically, me Mustafa Sattar Ananto. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ananto, we can hear you.
Okay. So, Sohel Reza bhai, I'll be working on behalf of IBM for Bangladesh.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So basically, we will have a session after the meeting with you.
Sure. I think on the way forward, maybe we can decide after this session.
Sure.
How we can, I think that should be processed through the procurement can be involved, because I'm not sure IBM already enlisted or not, because currently you are not involved in any service or solutions with Banglalink.
Right.
So let's formalize. I think definitely.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I would, Matt Jitan, and
yes.
I'll you to get in touch with Suhail and see how, through procurement, without also breaching any of our policies, supply or procurement policies, how you can be part of the roadmap that we have set for ourselves on opening our architecture and infrastructure to what you have presented just now.
Oh, fantastic.
Thanks.
We have already started a journey, and we have implemented a first phase of what you're talking about. And we are now out in the market looking for partners who can help us build on top of it. To become like a platform, as you mentioned.
Correct.
Relying on Kubernetes containers and service-oriented architecture principles, and as your orchestration, virtualization, all these building blocks. They are to various degrees already in execution and implementation in our infrastructure.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Okay, we'll definitely kind of get in touch with Saul Bhaif and get some information on this one. So thank you, appreciate that input. Okay, what I want to spend time on the next section is in telecom, what do we think are the enablers? And I'm going to actually take the help of my colleague Jignesh to answer some of these. But I want to start this with a story. And this story is about the telecom regulator in India and the telecom blockchain network that we actually built in India, which currently has 7 telecom players of India on it. Just to name them out: Airtel, Vodafone Idea, Reliance Jio, BSNL, MTNL, Tatacom, and Arcom. All of the 7 participants are actually on this particular network. This network currently caters to any single enterprise, which could be, for example, McDonald's, American Express, Citibank, the government, who wants to use SMS for any kind of transactional, promotional, or service message. Any of these messages have to go through this blockchain network. What that enabled also, and the idea was very simple. The government wanted to kind of come down and control the use of SMSs for fraud and spam. That was my first driving factor. The second, I had an ecosystem which include participants. For example, McDonald's I'm going to use, right? If McDonald's sends me a message and I complain to Airtel, Airtel goes back to McDonald's and says, you're spamming my subscriber. McDonald's says, no, 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 he signed up right here. But that document, McDonald's is not subject to try, does not need to show evidence. So that means I had ecosystem participants that were not subject to the telecom regulations. So different ecosystem participants, different regulations, how do you bring them under one standardized control or enforce that governance requirement? Lastly, privacy. Data being actually, while I could subscribe to a DND service, my data was pretty much sold out, and of course I was getting more messages. So we needed to create a solution where me as a subscriber, my privacy could be established. I could recognize who is sending the message. Is it McDonald's actually, or some place that calls itself McDonald without the S? And if I ask McDonald's for burgers only, and that's the promotion I want, and they send me messages for milkshakes, then you know what, that's actually not right too. So those were some of the challenges that we actually had to work with. And over a period of over a year, we actually sat down with the telecom regulator, understood the challenge, went through different technologies, and determined that the best way you could do this was address with blockchain. And currently, the 7 telecom blockchain network is live and in production. It's about 25,000 different business entities that are registered. And it enables the idea of tracking a particular SMS right from me giving consent to McDonald's to send me a message only for McDonald's burgers, to McDonald's actually going and sending messages, each message getting scrubbed against my profile, and only because of approved me receiving the message. And all of this is actually tracked on a particular network. Data is shared among participants because McDonald's could use Airtel to send the message or Vodafone, as well as my privacy is actually maintained. And that was, in some cases, what the UCC project was. What was the beauty of that particular project? What we realized is that there were certain modules which had to be built. I had to recognize who this end subscriber is. They needed to know who Jitan is. Well, Airtel already had that information, right? Because I actually had to give my government ID to get a phone line. So there was an identity module that existed in Airtel, which was brought onto this particular network. Likewise for Vodafone, likewise for Jio. What we did was we overlaid this particular ID module and added business rules. Chetan is a subscriber of Airtel. His data has to be shared with Vodafone, but without kind of giving Chetan's private information. And then Chetan's profile will actually keep getting added what brands he actually permits. So we added business rules to it. In the blockchain world, we call them smart contracts, but they were basically business rules in the end. We also had settlements pieces to some of this, right? Every entity that onboarded had to pay a subscription fee for using this network. So settlements were there. And of course, the government's regulations. These were just some of the modules that were built or formalized as a part of this blockchain network. What we realized, now I can use this actual network to expand to a lot of additional use cases. My mobile number portability use case requires the exact same modules. It requires a set of telecom players where I can ID a particular user. Yes, I changed the rules. I have settlement fees and government regulations. So all I needed was build another business logic on the same network. I could use for settlements, being IUC settlements, being OTT settlements, being any kind of payment settlement mechanism, I can use the same network because every settlement requires to recognize who the participants are, what is the business rule that need to be followed, who the settling nodal bank is for the exchange of transfer, and what governance rules in the end. So while we have built the telecom network for D&D spam, it is now being leveraged across these use cases. And it's been in this, some of these use cases are actually being used across the board. Some of these use cases are actually in discussion. But the idea was pretty much central to what I was talking. When you build a platform, think about what is the evolution of this platform and how we can expand, because the expectation that you'll build a platform for every solution, that's the old school methodology. We need to kind of think a little beyond, a little more flexibility. If I build a blockchain architecture, how can I add more use cases to it? Jignesh, please feel free to add to this as you please.
So Jitan, and thanks. And I think if we take a step back, right, and Jitan has been mentioning about the platform, right, I would go a little bit deeper into the platform and say that, okay, while the network was created for the UCC scenario, the previous slide that we just saw in India, for all the operators, right? But what we did also was the modules that Jitan was referring to are the enablers from a technical standpoint. So if you look at it, what we did in UCC was we built 3 enablers. One was identity. So I could know that who are the participants in that particular transaction. Now that transaction can be anything, right? It can be exchanging finance transaction between 2 parties. It can be based on some other messages being exchanged between the operator and the subscriber. So I know who has sent that particular message and what that subscriber was, right? So I have that identity as part of that enabler module. The second enabler that we built was the complaint mechanism, right? So if the customer was getting a message which was unsolicited and he complains, right? Now I need to identify when was it sent, who sent it, and was it scrubbed against the D&D database, right? So that I can resolve the complaint very fast. Earlier, the complaints, because of the cross operator ecosystem, it used to take somewhere around 15 to 13 days. Now the enabler that we build, we can resolve the complaint within 1 hour because everything is available on the ledger. You know who has sent it, when it was sent, whether the scrubbing happened or not, and which what you call operator has actually sent it. The third enabler that we built was around the settlements, right? Wherein for a subscription, you are exchanging settlements across 2 parties, right? Now, as part of this UCC project, we also developed an end-to-end enterprise, or what you call the partner onboarding module, wherein someone like McDonald's, if you take Jitan's example, onboarded onto the operator, and he was liable to say that, okay, I will be sending commercial communication, and by the way, the templates are going to be this for that particular communication, right? Now I'll just take a story around COVID, right? So once the UCC was implemented, COVID came in somewhere around April, right? Now there were a lot of essential services being offered by a lot of these enterprises who have registered onto the UCC. Now they wanted their employees to go in and provide or go for the jobs as part of their essential services. Now what we did was, we know that, okay, the employee who is for an organization also is a subscriber of an operator. So what we did was, we used the identity module, which was an enabler. We asked the enterprises to identify the list of employees who are supposed to provide services in a particular region, right, for their essential services, and submit that onto each operator's module or onto the blockchain network. Now what would happen is, we created a e-pass for all the employees of that enterprise, and the identity were pushed behind a particular QR code, and a e-pass was generated for each of these employees of the enterprise which were there on the UCC. Now every time that employee is being questioned on the ground by the police or someone, by an authority, saying that, okay, by the way, are you supposed to provide what you call a essential service, he would produce this QR code. What would happen is, the person who is trying to inquire this particular employee would go ahead and scan the QR code, and at the back, the blockchain network would say yes or no without revealing his identity, or maybe exposing one of his identity, so that it can be cross-matched with one of his identity that he can show on the ground, like his social security number or driving license or something of that sort, right? Now that is something that we did or built over UCC within 5 to 7 days from a coding standpoint. Though the testing took like 15 to 20 days because it was cross operator and we had to do it with the government authority as well. But the reason why I narrated the story is that once you have the enablers in place, the only thing that changes is the business rule, right? Now you apply this enabler concept across various organizations or across various industries. Whether you apply the same identity for banking industry or a insurance industry, the ledger needs to have business rules which may be very specific to that particular use case, but the basics of the use case is still going to remain the same in terms of whether who has done this particular financial transaction, who was the A party, who was the B party. So your identity is sorted. You might require settlement in that particular case, right? So that's the whole point that I wanted to bring out, that as a platform, when you start thinking about it in the overall blockchain parlance, you need to start building enablers around it, which can be identity, which can be settlement, which can be provenance, which can be tracking, which can be something payment or something else, right? And what you do is you expose these enablers to various use cases, which can be then exposed to multi industries and multi silos within your organization or outside the telco industry as well, right? So Jitan, you may want to the next slide. Go to the next slide, please.
I think we should also touch upon the cross-carrier payment as an example also, if it's possible.
Okay, Jitan, can you go one slide back, please? Sorry. So cross-carrier payment system, the one that Abhijit mentioned, is a use case that we are actually doing, and it's on the very much bottom on the right-hand side, right? Wherein what happens is today, when I as a customer who resides in India and have to come to Bangladesh, I have to what you call carry the Bangla currency in physical form, or I need to buy a Bangla what you call credit card, or have some card which stores financial amount in your currency, right? Now, what we have done as part of this cross-carrier payment system is that if I have a contract between two operators, so Airtel and let's say Banglalink on the other side, right, have a contract going or an agreement going, I can start using Airtel wallet to roam in Bangladesh and do my transactions with your partner ecosystem. So you may have partnership with McDonald's. I can go and settle for a burger that I buy in McDonald's with that with the amount which is stored in my Airtel wallet, which can be in my in the Indian currency form, right? So that's the use case that Abhijit was referring to. We have already done a POC. We are on the verge of working it out in a commercial what you call use case with one of the operators outside India, right? So that's the use case that Abhijit was highlighting.
Do you have sorry, this is Sohail.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any reference the I think the cross carrier maybe with the wireless company? So let's take one use case. There's the mobile and the wireless company or the broadband company. So that they have the separate users. They just maybe our users, the Banglalink user, will use their broadband, and vice versa. So do you have any reference or any implementation like this?
So, by just trying to understand the use case, what you're saying is you have a sister company or a partner who is providing broadband services, and he is also using your mobility service as a combined offer, or did I understand it wrong?
Using somebody else.
So, yeah, I think just one example that maybe the one mobile user, he is actually using a separate broadband or wireless at home.
Okay.
So from different ISP company, they has taken. So there's the cross carrier. The customer can, for example, you have given one example. I can use the Airtel wallet. Similar way, can that user, their user, use our mobile data or vice versa? Do you have any reference or this type of
Not
use cases?
exactly. So by not exactly to your use case I don't have a reference, but obviously cross carrier payment, and first of all let me try and answer whether I can use the same use case for your scenario. Absolutely yes, because
Yes.
it is much more what you call much more feasible, because in case of cross carrier there are what you call across the body across the country what you call financial transaction settlement, which is much more complex as compared to in your case wherein you are within the same country, you're trying to what you call cross leverage across services, right? So absolutely possible in your scenario.
So I
Second,
also
to
like
answer,
to, sorry,
sorry,
I'd like to comment also on this one.
yeah,
So
sure.
I also, just to kind of explain more also, right? Technically, what we are doing in some of the places where even IoTs have become very important, the idea is very simple, right? Each provider has to have some kind of instrument, be a phone or a router, that needs to be registered first to a particular subscriber. So if I'm using my home internet, which is provided by company A, but my cell phone is provided by Airtel, each of those instruments are basically registered to a particular subscriber. So that registration becomes critically important, which is basically using blockchain. And then as you use your devices on different types of internet, it basically gets, okay, you know what, this particular device is from the Airtel registered devices. It is using company A's particular network at this point of time, and the bandwidths can be measured. So well, yes, the answer is, can you track? Well, some of the IoT use cases actually go in that piece, and then to overlay with them is what Jignesh is explaining, the actual settlement piece. Sorry, Jignesh, back to you. Just wanted to come in that IoT piece there.
Yeah, but I don't think we have an exact what you call
Yeah,
reference
reference
to the
point.
use case that Sohelbhai is mentioning. That was the
Perfect.
second part. But definitely we can give the cross carrier what you call use case scenarios that we have deployed on ground, so that it can help them understand in a much more better fashion as to how it is applied and on ground, right?
Fair enough,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Thank you. Please.
Go ahead, Jitan.
Okay, next slide for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what again the slide is trying to talk about what I just spoke almost 5 to 10 minutes back, was that while we will be creating a blockchain network, but what we are essentially creating is a platform which is nothing but a network of networks. When I say network of networks, the only simplified answer to that is that it is a platform with enablers that I'm talking about. It can be identity, it can be consent, it can be settlements, it can be what you call your tracking, your provenance, it can be your what you call marketplace, your payments, etc., etc. And once you have those enablers, now you are creating a mesh of participants who are using those enablers. Now it can be telco operators, it can be financial organizations, it can be the health industry with the hospitals and the doctors as part of the entire case, or the pharmacies to be included as part of that entire ecosystem, or it can be regulatory use cases wherein the operators come in and you can do KYC also as part of this blockchain ecosystem, or an MNP or a roaming scenario, right? So that's the whole power of creating this network. Once you have the network created across participants, you can start what you call mixing and matching enablers, which can be then leveraged cross industry, right?
Perfect. Okay.
Jignesh, we just have a question from the floor. It's from Taimur Rahman. He's asking if the platform, who the platform belongs to. He's asking, does it belong to Tray? Is that correct? TRAI?
Try, correct, yeah.
So, okay, so Jitan, I would give a different answer. It depends on how you use that particular, or I would take a step back and say that once you've created the network, it depends on the participants also. Like in the case of UCC, it was neither, so it is not governed by, it may be governed by the regulatory body, but every operator is an equal participant in that particular network, right? Now, if you were to provide a financial service across various banks and you are offering that as a service to all the financial organizations, then it is a founder-led consortium that we call as, and you are the owner of that entire network, right? So it depends on the use case which you apply. The same network at times may belong to different owners based on the type of use case that you implement. Sorry, Jitan, if you
No,
want to add on.
fantastic. I think that's actually the answer. There is no, the answer to a particular who owns the network depends on the use case. I'll give you an example. The IBM Food Trust is a platform that we use to track leafy vegetables, track milk, freshness of beef. IBM owns that platform. So it belongs to me, and then I actually let people, clients use it from a subscription service. The example that Jignesh explained for the TRI UCC, TRI governs the platform. TRI pretty much is the boss over here, but the platform is owned by the participants because it's their infrastructure and they've used that to attain compliance across the board. We have a network called WeTrade, purely trade finance. All the banks own it. They've created a separate entity and the banks actually own it. So the ownership structure changes. In TRIs, it's owned by the participants, and then of course TRI governs the platform.
And if the question is that the same network, do I need to create the blockchain network separately for each use case? The answer is no, because based on the type of use case and the usage of that particular transaction platform, the what you call the ownership model changes, right? So you need not create multiple what you call networks for the various use cases.
Okay. Ritesh, let's rush it in the interest of time. We're going to move forward because there's 2 more discussions. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So I think that, again, then the question becomes, how do I go about thinking what use case do I really want to do? Because I think we've been telling you that, you know what, you can get into insurance, you can get into pharmacy, you can get into like identity management, financial services. Well, these are some of the use cases that we actually have come up with. And again, it changes from client to client, but this is where we've actually done the work and have assets, right? The main idea is, what is the theme of the use case? Is it provenance? Is it traceability? Well, for traceability, you know, very broad term. So, well, we actually are currently working on or have assets on traceability for across 3 different flavors of use cases. Contingent labor. You're an organization that has multiple different vendors coming, multiple different consultants coming. How do you manage the whole invoicing process, the SLAs, the procurement process altogether? Can I use an asset that basically requires that everybody tracks time, tracks hours, tracks invoices, tracks payment rates on blockchain? That's your contingent labor application. Now, currently, this is purely a cost optimization. I'm not asking you to kind of make any revenue over here. So that's my motivation why IBM took over contingent labor, was purely from a procurement function. So that, again, an internal use case. My intelligent supply chain. Now, this could pretty much be something that could you open out for yourself as well as open out to the much broader. What I want to track. I want to track my suppliers. I want to track the invoices that come in, the purchase orders that come in, the price changes, the payments that go in, the logistics. Can I actually have disputes with my vendors? How quickly disputes can actually be solved? Again, a very different ecosystem. And I just want to point out one important fact. Just because my dispute got resolved after 60 days, that doesn't mean I made some money. That actually is the opportunity cost loss. That's 0 ROI on dispute resolution. So every day spent is basically money being lost in the end of the day. I want to track fruits, vegetables, cloth. Well, that's traceability too. For that, we have the IBM Food Trust. So the idea is that the idea is what motivation is, what's exactly the use case we actually are working on, and there are different ways those networks can actually be set up. That's in some cases where we providence, what we call the providence traceability use case. The next slide, Jignesh, identity, please, your slide.
So identity, I think in the interest of time, should we pass, because we already talked about identity in case of UCC. The only one point I would like to add is that if you look at the right hand side of this particular slide, it talks about third-party marketing. Guess what? Where is this use case being built on? It's built on the same UCC framework that we had created for all the operators in India in case of UCC, right? What we are trying to do here is, in case of airports, if there is a digital display which changes based on the time and the day, right? The airport authority came back and say, I want to generate more revenue by displaying the top 10 ads based on the type of audience or the customers who are, or the flyers who are within that particular region. What we did was we said that, okay, we can do that. Since I know the consent of a particular subscriber and it is stored within UCC, I know the location of that particular customer or who are within, let's say, 1 kilometer of that particular airport or within a defined, what you call finite position, right? What I can do is I can identify how many are interested in getting a McDonald's, what you call ad based on the consent that he has provided per brand. Based on that, my digital display can show the top 5 or top 10 ads which are relevant to the customers who are there at the airport, right? So this was the third party marketing use case that we tried to generate for one of our airport clients.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on to the next slide, settlements. I think we've actually had this discussed this, but I'll let you quickly touch upon this.
Okay, so settlements again so settlements can be used in multi flavors. You already do settlements internally as an operator, which is in 3 different aspects, right? If I were to look at it, internal company settlement. Now that can also go in. I mean, with the same enabler, you can target 3 use cases. One is inter-company settlement for all your purchases and settlement that you do internally within the organization. The second level of settlement you can do with your partner ecosystem. When I say partners, it can be enterprises. It can be what you call the content providers or the application providers who are giving content or providing application related services in addition to your telco services to your customers, right? Now there is a settlement which is done at a what you call at a predefined frequency. Now that settlement, the same enabler can be used across what you call content and application provider settlement. And the third is inter operator settlement in case of roaming and interconnect as well, right? So those are the 3 scenarios that I think from a telco perspective, which comes into my view when I look at settlement as an enabler. And obviously you can extend it to loyalty programs, wherein a customer who is having multiple loyalty programs, now if you may want to collapse that into a single identity which is recognized by his mobile number, he can maybe what you call cross trade the loyalty points across enterprises and have a unique what you call loyalty experience, right? So these were the scenarios which we thought are relevant from a settlement perspective if you look at it from an operator endpoint.
Thanks, Ignesh. And the last one on this is basically transactions. I think this kind of goes so by the use case you were talking about. Can I actually track the usage across different providers if I have certain IoT or certain gadgets being registered? Well, the answer is actually yes, right? What we've done in some of the places is basically trying to make a car your wallet. I can use that car wallet. I think it's a Mercedes. It's a group called Mobi. Mercedes, BMW, and a couple of those. And the idea is we created a wallet. I can use the wallet to basically pay for toll. I can do parking, car sharing, charging, pay fees, whatever else be the case. So the idea that is I register the particular sensor using a particular network, which is my phone network, and then I use it across different ecosystems.
I believe that has been implemented in Germany, right?
That is correct. Movies implementation that should be in Germany. That is
right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So again, so I guess where we would like to conclude, lot of possibilities. Let's we can start thinking again. You don't have to go for the big bite approach of the big platform. It can start small. A very strong point that Jignesh has enabled. Let's create those enablers. See what you already have in your ecosystem. How can you piece this is the fact that the settlements right now for cross-carrier settlements is basically Cineverse. That's an IBM blockchain solution. The India Telecom, that's an IBM blockchain solution also. So we've done some considerable amount of work in these areas, which is I guess why we wanted to present this. With that, I'm actually going to end the blockchain session. Just any questions or any leading questions, you can email us also, of course, but please do let us know.
I think Jitan just
yes.
Just one question that as per our understanding, that's definitely, in telco, we are from the third party point of view and other than customers, Also, the content providers and other third parties are connected. So if you think about the other partners like Google, they are using their API layer. The Facebook, they are using the API layer. So the similar way, the telco also, we have the API. We have the API layer currently, uh, and SDP, So there's that to control our third-party containers. So do you have any implementation in India or any other country that that layer actually covered through blockchain technology on the all third-party and other technology solution providers are connected through API and through the blockchain solution?
Yes, so let me try and answer that. What you have is an API exposure layer to have all your enterprises come in and expose those APIs to all their customers. But what we are trying to do is that once a customer tries to expose that API, right, tomorrow you have to go ahead and settle your, if the customer has used a Google service, right, at the background, you still have to settle per customer. You might have a rev share model with him, or maybe based on a subscription based model with him, or some other way of what you call settling it with that particular application or content provider, right? Now, what the API is doing is it is exposing your assets or Google APIs to the customer. Now, every time that customer hits that particular API, there is a transaction which happens, right? And that gets recorded into your blockchain ecosystem, right? Which can then be used for settlement, which can be used for, if any complaints arises, that whether it happened into your platform or something of that sort, right? So this is the way the blockchain can coexist with the API layer. And this is exactly what is happening in case of UCC, right? The Airtel or any other operator's app is exposing the APIs by which the customer goes on to McDonald's and says, okay, I want to give consent to McDonald's for sending me unsolicited commercial communication. That's an API which is exposed by Airtel, right? Now, whether the customer, and whenever the McDonald's wants to send out an unsolicited communication to him that there is an offer, what happens is this blockchain platform goes and scrubs against that customer's number whether he has given access to send you a commercial communication, and that's how it happens at the background, right? So for me, it's a coexistence model that you will have to work with when you are having an API exposure layer.
Yeah, look, guys, I think here I feel a little bit sorry that we are having this discussion this late in what we are trying to do, and at the same time, I'm not sure how this overlook from both sides happened, that you were not part of this initiative that I mentioned on the API hub side. So, because what you have just described now is 100% aligned with our thoughts in terms of opening our architecture and infrastructure for third-party connectivity and enablement of a broader ecosystem. So the thing is, just for you to know, and this is also for your interest in terms of how to collaborate in the future, or at least to have potential for collaboration while you discuss with SCM how you can be included in the process or how you can be brought into the process. The thing is, we have virtualized our infrastructure on the network side. We are taking that virtualization of the infrastructure in the future as a step further from orchestration point of view of network functions. We have also modernized our BSS system. We are in the process of modernizing our OSS also system. We are now kicking off the modernization of our ESS system. We have deployed DMP as a data management platform, also that integrates with all the other support systems. On top of that, we're deploying, and now we launched first phase of an API hub based on service-oriented architecture principles, Kubernetes in the future, also deploying on top of it, similar to what you're saying here, identity management, transaction settlement, transaction management, settlement also of payments and transactions and all of this, and having the governance and control structure in place so that we also migrate from what we have today in terms of SDP, just for VAS, into a broader ecosystem. So that will allow us not only to manage VAS transactions, but all types of transactions. And what we want to do is to expose all the business capabilities that we have, whether location-based service capabilities or whether billing capabilities, segmentation capabilities, profiling capabilities, everything, payment capabilities that we have. We want to expose them to third party. And we want to be able also to integrate third-party capabilities into our own capabilities and also expose them to third party again. So we want to expand beyond our own capabilities only so that we can, through a broader ecosystem, cross-match, cross-reference, cross-correlate, and combine into a more coarse kind of services to be exposed through the same API hub and vice versa. This can happen in with other players in the industry, similar to what you have done on the UCC, or on a standalone basis. If others are ready, we can integrate with also their exposure of their own capabilities, various industries, as you mentioned, and so on. So we are now looking at a partner, or looking for a partner who can help us migrate from the current API hub that we have with limited capabilities that we're currently using with third party already, it's live, into this second phase of this API hub that will enable exposure of business capabilities and control of identity for consumption, control of also transaction, control of settlement, control of access. But also not only within our own ecosystem, but have a hybrid model where we can also polynarize our ecosystem with other ecosystems, also other industries or other players, other telcos, so that also we can enrich the services we are providing to third parties to build their own business models on top. So I don't know where you, how this misunderstanding happened that you were not part of this initiative. We've been running it for quite some time, and I was surprised that IBM declined to be part of the initiative. And now hearing all this presentation, I see that we have lost so much time, okay? And you have lost also the same. Yes. And I don't know how we can bring you into this race this late in the process. I don't know. I have to check with, I'm not sure if we have anyone here from procurement, but I don't think so. We invited, I think, Zakaria, if I'm not mistaken.
Pierre. Hello, Pierre. I'm not sure, but I heard that Red Hat participated. So Red Hat is part of IBM now.
No, I mean, yeah, look, hey guys, this is Matt. Look, Pierre, I'm connecting with Sahel tomorrow. We'll go through the details. We don't know who was invited from IBM, and that's what we'll get to the bottom of by tomorrow. And we'll touch base with you and discuss exactly where that is. I mean, Red Hat is technically part of IBM, but it's very much a separate entity. So how they participated, what they did is a different conversation. But I think what we can do by tomorrow is at least understand how we can together then see what we can salvage and how we can work together, considering the maturity of the current process that you guys are in. But at least by tomorrow, then we can see if there's if it's worth the time to sit down and look at next steps, maybe even go a bit deeper in some of these use cases and functionalities that works best with your business model, and at least with that strategy that you're working towards. Would that work, Pierre?
Yeah, definitely. But now let's try, Matt, and as much as possible, make up the lost time. So because we are also under a lot of pressure to align the initiative that we're having on the API, other initiatives that we have. So we cannot protract it for long.
Absolutely. Look, we're fairly fast. So I can't speak on behalf of what happened in the past, but from the sound of things and what Sahel, and we could probably take this offline, but I'll just touch on this very quickly. From the sound of things that Sahel mentioned with IBM, there may not have been a process for business engagement. We certainly have that now. We have our partner who helped us arrange this session today, PPL. So we have a vehicle for transaction. We have a vehicle of doing business. And so from our side as who you're speaking to at the moment, the GBS side of the business, they will help implement and execute through the numerous years that they've been doing such projects. So together we can certainly deliver a very fast outcome that is up to standard, more importantly, up to what you expect from a partner.
Good to hear.
Yes, and I think Pierre, just the one part I want to add. The team that you're talking to, like Abhijit, myself, Jignesh, we were the hands-on delivery folks for the India Telecom blockchain. Jignesh was the enterprise architect. I managed the delivery for the blockchain. So we're not just the sales team, we're actually the team. So we'll definitely kind of, to Matt's point, be very actively involved to see how we can get this going fast.
Okay.
That's great. Let's catch up tomorrow, yeah, Matt.
Great.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sahel. No problems.
Okay. So I guess in the interest of time, I'm going to then, I think that's what we had for blockchain. The next session we actually have is on what's in AI ops. So Nikki, over to you. I'm going to hand you the control of the presentation, okay?
Sure. Thanks a lot. Let's see if I could share this. It says host disabled attendee screen sharing. Would someone be kind enough to share my screen, please? Meanwhile, very good evening to everyone, and thank you again, once again, for taking time.
Nikki wanted to see your face.
Let's put that on in a little bit. Okay, here we go. Can you guys see me?
Okay, right now.
So everyone, very good evening once again. Thank you, and apologize. I think we didn't engage with you on the API part of the business. We certainly want to, if given the opportunity. I am also responsible for the API management technology part of the business, right? So the platform, API platform business as well. It's also under, aside from blockchain, it's also one of my responsibilities. So I've got blockchain API, and in addition to that, AI ops as well. So, well, over the next, I think 15, 20 minutes, we're gonna share a little bit about AI ops, what IBM brings, and why we think it'd be very useful for an organization like you. So let me see if I can share this now. I still can't share this, so whoever the host is.
I believe someone needs to make you co-host. Is it the slides from yesterday?
Sorry?
It's the same slides. Let me see if I've got them.
Yeah. Okay, I'm now co-host. Good. Let's see. Is everyone able to see my slide now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Perfect. So very good evening to everyone. Thank you so much again once again for taking the time to spend your Monday evening with us. I know Mondays are usually very, very busy for everyone. So yeah, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about AI ops and what's in AI ops. I think some of you might have already heard of this terminology being used. And we recently, if some of you might know, we've recently announced what's in AI ops at Think, which is our global kind of user conference in May. This time around it was digital, primarily because of the current situation that we're in. But nevertheless, it generated a lot of excitement, I guess, even more so over the last, I would say, couple of months, right? We've all gone through something that hasn't happened for the last 100 years, right? Which is a pandemic. And we are still living through it. And I think one of the takeaways or the outcomes that came out of it was, we all know, people say the new normal and all that stuff, right? The main thing about this is that the adoption of digital platforms, I think you've seen that a lot as well, has greatly accelerated over the last 3 months. People are saying, that you read a lot of reports, like digital adoption or digital platform adoption has, I think that the adoption of those platforms has way, I think I would say, overtaken the adoption that had taken place to the prior 3 years, right? So people were starting to use digital platforms a lot more. If you look at a lot of traditional I would say, traditional businesses, those without a digital front end, a lot of them are struggling. Those who have adopted digital technologies, like Matt has mentioned, right, digital transformation, earlier, they start to realize that a lot of their digital channels became the primary channel. It used to be like, okay, a support channel, right? It's nice to have, for most organizations. Some became, a key channel, but it's not the primary. But now the digital platform has become the primary channel in which your clients engage with you, right? And as a result of that, service providers like yourself, you use that internally to interact with your clients, but at the same time, your infrastructure becomes a lot more strained, right? You provide the infrastructure for your clients, and they rely on your infrastructure even more so. So as a result of which, I think maintaining or improving service levels to your clients become critical, and also becomes a competitive advantage for you as well, right? So, and keep me honest, right, if that doesn't make sense. One of the key things that you realize, and this is done, this study is done prior to, what happened in the last couple of months, but already, if you look at it, there are more than 500 million, half a billion new apps, right, which is, that has been built over the last, I would say the last year or so, or last couple of years, is equal to the number of apps being built over the last 40 years. And just imagine that, right? And as a result of the last couple of months, I guess people are starting to develop even more apps. I think we'll hit that 1 billion number of applications pretty soon. I don't think it will take 40 years to hit that, right? So that's what we're starting to see. And what does that mean? There's a lot more emphasis on the digital channel and the infrastructure supporting that digital channel, right? I mean, you look at it, a CIO's pain is now key. You become a critical part of the business. I think telcos or service providers like yourself have already realized that. I came from CenturyLink, and they are one of those who incurred a fine because from the regulators, right? But aside from fine from regulators for outages, a lot of organizations lose business as a result of outage. And it's not just direct loss of business during the outage or during a downtime or performance issue. You lose credibility. A lot of people always say that it takes you years to build up credibility online, but it takes you minutes to lose it, right? The moment the customer experience suffers as a result of SLA not being met, or customer expectations not being met in terms of performance, and that's getting tougher by the day, you realize that that all the effort that you've done over the last couple of years to build trust, right? Clients' trust in you goes away instantly, right? So a key thing is, from a CIO's perspective, how are we looking at, or even the CTO, right? How are we looking at the whole enterprise? How do we transform, right? So we're looking at a more unified approach to everything that we do, the processes, the tools, the people, how we work, right? From building applications to deployment of applications to automating some of the operations on a day-to-day basis, and help, because it becomes more complex. I mean, the environments that we work in becomes even more complex. I mean, cloud drives transformation. It gives you agility, or people say cloud, I would say cloud native applications, right? It gives you agility. People adopting CI/CD methodologies and rolling out applications. One of the key challenges in that is that you have quick release cycles, quick update cycles, new features being added, new functionality being published. I mean, you talk about your API hub, you want to create new APIs, every time your APIs are ready, right? The key thing is, how do you ensure that they're up and running all the time? And if anything happens, how do you fix those issues very, very quickly, right? So people are starting to look at, I would say the industry is starting to look at, how do I use AI? I mean, human resources is scarce. I know in a country like Bangladesh, you probably say, hey, maybe I have human resources. But then again, even in India, right, which is 1.4, 1.3 billion people, human resources is still scarce in terms of skill sets, right? In terms of troubleshooting environments, or ensuring that you have an environment that is up and running 24/7 all the time, right? And as a result of that, you have applications deployed on the public cloud, on the private cloud, on-prem, in traditional environments, in virtual machines, in Kubernetes environment, as you've mentioned earlier, that you're going to move to. How do you ensure that in those environments, whether it's Kubernetes or virtual machine based, and more often than not, all the different applications are talking to each other, how do you keep them up and running? How do you ensure that they are at their optimal? How do you ensure that you get the right resources that are assigned to those to help make them run optimally. And at the same time, if anything happens, how do you ensure that you keep your service levels up or maintain your service levels so as not to incur any cost to the business, right? So these are the key challenges, right? Challenges to CIOs is how do you balance innovation and stability, but at the same time, the operations team is like there's so much complexity in the tool sets out there. Kubernetes, probably use a different set of tools. VMs, you probably use a different set of tools. Managing it, security around it, and because of turnover, I mean, skill sets are becoming scarce, and experience is built over years. And every organization, I mean, IBM included, we do have challenges keeping skilled people around, right? Because they are always I would say desired by other organizations. So keeping people around and to maintain that environment is always a challenge. Having that skill set move from what we call tribal knowledge to common knowledge, sharing that skill set is always difficult, right? I mean, whether willingly or unwillingly, it's always difficult, right? So as you know, I guess you probably would have this in your environment, right? I walk into some NOCs, right? And you see multiple dashboards. It looks really awesome. It's good to see them, but it's tough. I mean, to be an analyst sitting in a room and looking at those dashboards and when the lights blink, it's not a good thing. I mean, it looks very colorful, but when you have alerts coming in, it becomes a major issue, right? So today, I'm not sure whether you face this, but a lot of our clients in the operation centers, they realize that there's too many alerts now, right? They have a lot of tools. They have a lot of tools giving them alerts. They have to kind of decide which are the alerts they should act on, which are the alerts that they kind of it's not really important, right? And also at the same time, depending on the experience level, the people that you have there, right? And sometimes you say, okay, if I don't act on this, and that one thing leads to another, that leads to another, and then leads to an outage, then you start doing investigations and you realize, hey, how come you didn't act on that in the first place, right? So it's tough, right, to know what's related to what and what to do or whether to do anything at all, right? And the key thing is, if anything happens, how do you resolve that as quickly as possible? I mean, being a service provider yourself, you know that very well. You live and breathe that, right? How do you minimize downtime? How do you ensure that you're up 24/7? And you know that you can never be 100% available all the time, but for that 0.001% that you're down, I mean, how do you ensure that you identify the problems and resolve those problems as quickly as possible? So that's always a key challenge. So we're starting to look at AI. I mean, AI is not new, right? I mean, especially at IBM, we started working AI ever since we had our Deep Blue computer win the world champion in chess some 20 years ago, right? We've been working on AI, and since then we've been using AI in a variety of different areas. I mean, both Matt and I came from security. We use AI to help get to the root cause of some security breaches and breakthrough. I mean, security break-ins and all that stuff. And at the same time, now we're saying, how do we use AI? I mean, we use AI to kind of diagnose cancer. So we say, hey, why don't we use AI to diagnose with what's wrong in your IT operations environment? And that's what we've done, right? We said, let's put AI to good use to help our clients to be able to make sense of the huge volumes of data, all the logs that we take in, whether it's from our mediating devices, whether it's CDRs, whether it's, base station records and all that stuff, right? All this data coming in, identify, reduce the noise, kind of correlate them, get some context, and then make sense of this data coming in for two reasons, right? If an event happens, quickly I help to find out what happened and resolve it. And the other one, of course, prevent things from happening if you look out for warning signs. I think these are the two things. So Gartner has already seen this and said, what's AI ops? It's the use of AI or machine learning and data science and applying it to day-to-day IT operations. And that is to help reduce, basically in a sense, is to help reduce the mean time to resolution, or MTTR in a sense. Every organization has thousands of IT incidents per month. You got hundreds of thousands of alerts, right, every month, right? That's a huge, the more applications you deploy, like say, for example, API Hub version 1, going to API Hub version 2, right, you're going to get more users, which is a good thing. But because of that, you're going to get more alerts, more events being triggered. And the key thing is we did a study, less than 1% of those alerts are critical. But the cost of those alerts, I mean, I've read different reports. One report says 420K US per hour. Some says 300K US per hour. Some says 150K. Let's take the lowest amount, right? Say even 150K US per hour. If it's not detected, let's say even if it's detected and it takes you, 6 hours to resolve, that's almost $1 million. It's $900,000 US for every incident that takes 6 hours to resolve, which is the average time for resolution. So today, what happens is that you look at different dashboards. You take about on average, there's this in our report, 135K per incident, 4 hours 53 minutes to kind of identify and resolve 17 steps, so many responders. What we hope to do with Watson AI Ops, or what we tend to do with Watson AI Ops, is to use AI to kind of discover, look at the logs in detail, read the logs at a faster speed, and do correlation much faster than human beings can do, and try to do that, connect the dots, right? And then bring to your analysts. I wouldn't say AI Ops as artificial intelligence, but more augmented intelligence, right? Use the machine to help you to augment your analysts, so that then you can select or shortlist those that are critical, that you want to pay attention to, that can prevent outages, and we can be proactive about it. Or if something happens, you can quickly identify the issue or the incident and resolve it much quicker, right? So we can take data with Watson AI Ops. We can take data from a variety of different sources, whether it's logs, it's tickets, and so on, from all your different elements, your network elements, or even your applications as well, not just network elements, but your applications as well, whether it's from syslog, or it's from a Elastic Stack, or it's from Splunk, right? Or we have our own logging solution as well. Put it into Watson AI Ops, and then help you to be able to make sense of the data and help you to reach a resolution much faster. And so what we hope with AI Ops is to reduce the time that you take to resolve an incident from hours to minutes, right? Thereby saving you money directly and also indirectly by maintaining or increasing your service level and giving you that competitive advantage as well, right? So what AI Ops is we hope to do is to reduce all the MTTs, right? Mean time to detection, identification, knowledge, knowing what is going on, and then finally repairing and resolving the issue, right? So all of those steps takes time. And with the use of augmented intelligence or AI Ops or Watson itself, what we aim to do is to help you to do that, right? To reduce that. So why IBM AI Ops? We've tested it with a couple of pilot clients. I mean, we just launched this in May, right? And it resulted in a 3/4 reduction in tickets, I would say, logged, and at the same time improved the mean time to resolution by 80%, and reducing the amount of incidents, I would say, both proactively and reactively reducing the incident count by 85% as well, right? So AI Ops is not exactly 100% new. We built it, our Watson AI Ops is actually built on top of our core AI Ops platform, which we call NetCool. Some of you might have heard of NetCool before. It's been deployed in a lot of large telcos today, including, I would say, off my head, Vodafone, Singapore Telecom, Telstra, Spark New Zealand, a number of telcos, large telcos, small telcos, regional telcos that are using AI Ops or NetCool itself to run their end-to-end IT infrastructure, and it already has some form of machine learning in it. What we've done in May was add the Watson component of it, the augmented intelligence, the one that gives you the proactive insight into your environment, right? So with that, you have a more complete solution set to manage your entire environment, to be able to help you, run your IT operations more effectively and more efficiently. So this is a simple architecture, right? You take all the events and metrics and topology, even changes in topology. It's able to read your changes in topology and then let you know that, okay, because this change, this is what might happen. and does some predictive analysis for you as well. So in that sense, before you roll out a new configuration, a new topology in your network, you're able to do simulations as well. And so that will help you to do your planning a lot better, and also to ensure that we minimize downtime as much as we can. Right. So in a nutshell, we combining AI ops, what we call Watson AI ops now, right, with what we call NOM, traditionally was Netcool Operations Manager. We've come up with Watson AI ops as a total bundle, as a total solution stack, to help our clients like yourself, provide a more intelligent platform to manage your entire end-to-end infrastructure. So ultimately, it's all about reducing and minimizing your mean time to resolution and preventing incidents from happening. Right. So this is what we do, I guess, in a nutshell. But yeah, also I'm more than happy to go into greater detail in a separate session if you're keen to explore this further. We feel that will be a really true differentiator in what you can do in your infrastructure environment. With that,
Nick, I have a question.
Yes.
The question is that does your solution also covers the security events?
Okay, so we do take logs, but from a security standpoint of view, we do have a security intelligence platform, which both Martin and I came from in the past, right? So we do that, but that's a different part of IBM. We can share with you on that one. That's for your SOC, right? We complement the SOC. We do the IT operations, the application performance management, the network performance management, all of that stuff. We do some one thing that our security business unit doesn't do is container security and microservices security. Because one of the key things when you deploy your applications into containers like Kubernetes, a lot of the traditional security intelligence platforms are not able to read what's happening within those containers themselves. So with that, we have a solution called Sysdig, which is our global partner of ours that we represent, and we are the only presence for them in the region here that does container security.
Okay, Nikki, I take it that also your AI ops can be deployed on a standalone basis. It doesn't have to be part of the Netcool solution, correct? Can be also deployed on top of other umbrella management systems, no?
Yeah, so we use Netcool as a base. It's a total package now, or Watson AI Ops together with Netcool. We call it Watson AI Ops. However, if you have existing applications, for example, if you're using a Splunk or Dynatrace or even Prometheus, for example, right? We can take data from Prometheus or any of those, Elasticstack, ELK, App Dynamics, if you're using application performance management, SolarWinds, if you're using SolarWinds for your networks.
No. We have built our own umbrella management system with a third party.
Okay.
Thing is, I wanna just check whether we have to buy from you Netcool if we want to deploy the Watson AI Ops solution, or it can come as a standalone solution or module on top of the umbrella management system we have.
So you can just use the Watson AI Ops, but it comes with Netcool. So unfortunately, you can't kind of do bundle today. It's just
but if we don't want to replicate all the capabilities of Netcool, because we are having also our same capabilities with our existing umbrella management system. So how do we, first of all, not only from an architectural point of view, but also from a commercial point of view, don't pay for a solution twice? You see what I mean?
I understand what you're trying. We can always take that offline and see how we can best architect for your environment.
So I guess Moin, I saw Moin on the call. If you can maybe get in touch with Moin and see how we can look into what you can offer on the AI ops side and how it also aligns with what we're doing on the umbrella management system and OSS solution modernization.
Sure, absolutely. I'll be glad to do that.
Okay, Pierre. Noted. I'll be in touch.
Yeah, Moin. Yeah, send your details across to myself. I'll share it with you, Moin. I saw your details there. I'll send it across.
Okay, good. Man, I think we have to wrap up. We're running out of time. I don't know whether you have other material you want to share with us.
Yeah, look, I think we have another 15 minutes. I mean, it's up to you. We can continue on. We can save for another day. We have Watson Assist to cover. Did you want us to cover it briefly and wrap up? Or would you prefer to wrap it up at this
Yeah, if it doesn't take more than 10 minutes, it's fine. Let's try and squeeze it within 10 minutes because some people they have to go for a break.
I understand. No,
now
no
late
problems.
hours.
Of course it is. Okay, guys, did you want to run through the last 10 minutes quickly? Jitan?
Sorry, I was talking on mute. The answer is yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Quick. Sorry about
Thank
that.
you.
So Vivek,
No problem.
you're on. I'm going to hold the slides. You let me know when you're ready to change the slide, okay?
Okay, thanks, Jitan. Yeah, Jitan, we start with the second slide. Can you put that in the slides?
Absolutely. Yes, I can.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Okay. Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. So in the interest of the time, so we'll just walk you through the key information we want to talk about on the cognitive care or the contact center transformation perspective. With this COVID scenario, which has actually, engulfed all of us across the globe, and one of the things we found, especially that one of the when the companies, they were hit on the contact center side, right? So basically, suddenly it was unvisaged, and then the way the contact centers were architected were more on the on-premise and agents working from the premises, right? And suddenly with this pandemic, what has happened actually, agents were not able to travel, and then they had to work remotely, and also most of the features of the contact centers were not available. So that has actually led the enterprises to rethink their strategy in terms of the contact center, which are actually one of the key parts of the operations, right? Because customers reach out through multiple channels and they try to get their information. And of course, every enterprise wants to fulfill their customers or solve their customers' query to get best of the NPS, and at the same time to be able to serve them with the lowest cost. So keeping that in mind, there is a key shift in terms of the way the contact centers to be operated moving forward. And also in terms of interesting thing also happened, though, that as the contact centers or the agents were out, not available to take the customer call, especially on the audio side, there was a lot of thrust and push to take the customers go to the website or a mobile app or use the digital channels like a chatbot or email, whatsoever was applicable, so that at least they can reach out and get their resolution to the queries, right? And also use more and more self-service, right? Say for example, if they want to upgrade their digital plan, suddenly everybody was working from home, and then they wanted to upgrade their digital plans from X amount to the Y amount, and all this could be done digitally. So the big change was to push more self-service, use digital channels, and try to avoid calls for at least simple to medium complexity to be going to the contact center, and that will give a room or space to the contact centers to readjust themselves with the least number of agents working and take the more complex calls. So IBM is basically had been working with multiple customers enterprises across the globe in this such times, and then there are many success stories or the partnerships where we actually enable these customers to take this story of resilient contact center and help them to answer their queries or customers queries using the technology of AI. Can you move to the next slide, Jitan? Yeah, while we try to work with enterprise to build a resilient contact center, one of the key things which we take in mind is obviously in terms of delivering on the three pillars. One obviously is to ensure that the net promoter score or the customer is happy, and then that score actually goes up by 10 to 15%. But as we ensure that customer gets a seamless experience across all the channels, whether it's a voice, text, email, or talking to an agent, that should result in the lower cost of operations. So that's another key point which we ensure that wherever we deploy this AI-based contact center transformations, we try to deliver 30 to 40% overall cost center reductions over the span of 3 to 5 years. And also, as we get a lot of data from day-to-day customer interactions across the channels, we crunch this data using the analytics of the AI layer and be able to give a lot of insights, which helps to do more of the cross sell upsell, which actually translates the helps to translate the contact center from a cost center to a revenue center, by able be able to increase the new revenue streams by at least 10% or so. Jitan, if you can move to the next slide. Typically what we have seen that as the customers, if you see on the typically current state, we have seen that most of the contact centers, they when they are deployed, the customers start with one journey across say IVR, or we call that as a voice bot, or then they start introducing the chat bot or the live agents, or similarly email and WhatsApp and so on and so forth. So multiple interactions they try to start, where the customers can reach out and get their queries faster. But at the same time, if they are maybe using AI across one or the two channels, and also queries going to the agent, and predominantly voice dominates the overall touch points across that. So what it results into is, if customer starts the journeys on a silos, it results into multiple AI platforms. It also, because of the maturity of the different AI platforms, it results in varied NPS scores across the channels. IVR is still predominant on most expensive channels, where customers try to do some self-service on the IVR, but again, it reaches to the agent, and which is a huge cost to serve. And then also in terms of the limited amount of analytics available to improve the self-service, or to understand the customer and give him a much more personalized experience. So what IBM brings on the table is something what we call as a one AI platform. It's basically a one AI layer which helps to provide the interaction across multiple channels, whether it's a voice, which you call it a voice bot, or a chat, across the channels on the website, mobile app, or social channels, or customer writing an email, getting an auto response through an AI, right? So all these powered by one AI layer on the customer side, but also on the other side, same AI empowering the agent so that they are able to handle the call more effectively. So AI actually tells the agent what to do. These are the documents. This is the process to be followed. So agent is glued on the screen, just looking at the recommendations coming from the AI, and delivering the best experience to the user. And also using the same AI platform to do the analytics, so that this information flows back to improve the self-service, to improve the agent productivity, and also for the cross-sell and upsell. Another smart thing what we do using this smart routing, what we are seeing on the screen, is basically ability to deflect the calls on the right channel. So what we built in this smart routing engine is, with that lot of data available, that what are the customer preferences, what is the last interaction he had, right? And what could be the possible reason he's calling again, and many such parameters we take into account using on the AI platform. And then that actually helps to divert the calls, whether on a digital channel or on the IVR, and that ensures that the uptake of multiple channels, or the IVR and the digital channels, is proportionate, and the cost to serve actually comes down. So there are two parameters we are taking care. One, equal adoption of the channels, whether it is IVR or digital. Cost, more and more interactions happen, being handled on the low channel to serve. Third, the self-service uptake rate should be very, very high. So very only more complex calls should be handled by the agents. And if it goes to the agents, agent should be able to give with the right information to the customer using the AI. So that's the value which IBM brings on the table using this one AI platform. Can we move to the next slide, Jidan? Any questions? So if you see this slide, so this is basically the further elaboration of what you saw earlier, that how one AI can be powered across the channel, whether it is a voice chat, a social interaction, or an email bot, or powering a mobile app, or making the website more intelligent using the open search, and then also powering your offices, internal offices, as well as your showrooms, where the when the customers walk in, the teams there actually are empowered with these AI bots. They can actually give more insights about the customers and the products and the latest information, so that they can handle those queries very well. And also powering the agents in the back end in the contact center, so that they are able to serve. And if you see multiple customers logos there, they have been using this AI platform, and across multiple multiple use cases. So for example, I pick one example of Regions Bank, who is using this for a chatbot, also for a voice interaction on an IVR, also for the agent assist in the back in the call center. Similarly, Credit Mutual, and similarly multiple telcos like CenturyLink, they have been using on an omni-channel experience. So this is one of the things which IBM brings on the table for the enterprise and the telco grade customers, with a very robust technology, as well as a very different model to commercial model to work on that. So that is something which we can discuss in the next meeting, and that how we can bring a very a different commercial model for these kind of an engagements. Jitan, last slide towards the next. Yeah, so this is just one example of one of the bots which we deployed for Vodafone. And as I said earlier, that when we design, we ensure that one, the cost to serve should go down, which you see in this case is 70% reduction when we deployed this self-service bot. And also in terms of the NPS, right? 8 out of the 10 queries got resolved. And the beauty of this is not only this is a chat bot, but this got extended to the WhatsApp bot, and then now to the other solutions like the IVR or the email. So basically one enterprise extending the AI layer for multiple use cases. So I stop here and open to any questions. I know I rushed, but I just wanted to just bring that message.
Yeah, I think that's good. Any questions, guys, before we wrap it up?
On this, hi, this is Buddy from Banglalink Technology. So, chatbot, does it support the OTT platforms like WhatsApp or Messenger?
Yes,
or
it does.
Okay, so it comes as an independent product, the chatbot, right? It can be integrated with any social media channels or OTT channels, right?
Yes, it can be. So it can be a standalone product. You can pick from that, start with a journey, and then we can expand this to the other channels. And also in the chatbot, we can start with, say, for example, WhatsApp or the Messenger. Then you can add it to the mobile app or your web page. So that's how you can expand as well. So we can decide the journeys, and we can decide the channels of interaction, and how the way forward this AI can be extended.
We would like to know more about this product. We are exploring some solutions. So maybe we can connect offline and understand more about that.
Definitely.
Great.
Maybe in the interest of time, first of all, thank you very much for sharing with us all these capabilities and your portfolio. The thing is, as I noticed here, first of all, the presence of IBM in our current footprint and landscape is pretty much inexistent. So it's good that we are getting in touch now, but it's also very important that you find a way of stepping up the account management within Bangladesh and your presence there, and the interface between Banglalink and IBM. As I mentioned, I don't want to go back into the past, but we've invited you into certain tenders and we didn't see much interest. Now we see that you have lots of solutions that can help us with our roadmap and our initiatives that are currently running. So as a follow-up from this discussion, I would really would like to see a better engagement between your team and our supply chain, our also stakeholders. And we have currently running initiatives that we would like to hear how IBM could help us on. So with that, there are lots of work to be done, and particularly to start with on the interface and account management level.
Yeah, look, understood, Pierre. Look, that's good. I mean, what we'll do, look, I'll touch base with Sahel tomorrow and also Moin. Separately, I'll reach out to you later on because I think there's lots of synergies that have been missed, to your point. Let's maybe do a quick 30-minute call later back into this week and just see exactly where those potential synergies are and make sure we cover all those so we don't have a repeat of, what happened in the past, at least, so we can move forward from there.
Okay.
Let's do that. And then, look, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity tonight. I think we've seen lots of value from it. And let's see where the future holds. Look, I think that's fantastic. Thank you, Pierre, for arranging the team to join us tonight.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Pierre. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.